Often, our minds jump between what has already happened and what might happen, bringing forth regrets and anxieties. This constant oscillation prevents us from enjoying the present moment. It is here that Stoic philosophy provides us with a valuable lesson. Instead of allowing ourselves to be consumed by this mental agitation, we can learn to cultivate tranquility and clarity. The mind is often an arena of conflicts. Amid the hustle and bustle of everyday life, we are constantly surrounded by disturbing thoughts, worries, fears, and doubts that seem endless. These internal voices sometimes feel uncontrollable, laden with anxieties about the future or regrets about the past. Practices like meditation and mindfulness are powerful allies in this process. By taking time to observe our thoughts neutrally, we find a space of calm that can transform our inner state. The Stoics teach us that true freedom lies in discerning what we can change from what is beyond our control. On this path of self-discovery, it is possible to calm emotional storms. The cultivation of inner peace becomes a daily practice, an exercise in reflection and detachment. By silencing the agitation of the mind, we create space for wisdom and serenity, allowing them to guide our actions. The Stoics remind us of the importance of cultivating inner peace. We need to find moments of silence, even amidst chaos. This practice is not a luxury but a necessity. Taking time to slow down and breathe deeply can be the first step toward regaining serenity. These days, we are constantly being distracted. We become distressed, stressed, and frustrated when trying to control the uncontrollable, as if we had the power to shape destiny as we please. However, Seneca teaches us that fighting these realities is like swimming against an insurmountable current. The more we resist, the more we are swept away and sink into the sea of anxiety and despair. He invites us to change our perspective, to abandon this futile struggle and to practice rational and serene acceptance of what it is not within our power to change. Accepting what we can't change doesn't mean we should give up on our dreams or stop trying to improve our lives. In fact, it is a smart and liberating attitude. Seneca, a Stoic philosopher, believed that accepting things we cannot control is not a sign of weakness, but rather of great inner strength. When we realize that there are things that are not within our power, such as the behavior of others or certain events in life, we stop wasting energy trying to change them. This frees us to focus on what really matters, our own actions, choices, and how we deal with situations. When we don't try to control everything, we feel freer because we are dedicating our attention and effort to improving who we are and how we respond to challenges. For Seneca, what we can really control is our mind and our thoughts. If we can focus on what we can change, our attitude and the way we face things, we end up changing the way we see the world, even if the world around us remains the same. In other words, it is more powerful to work on ourselves than to try to change what does not depend on us. Have you ever felt that, at some moments in life, no matter how hard you try, it seems like you are walking against a storm? Often, the discomfort we feel comes not from the situation itself, but from our resistance to it. Stoic philosophy teaches us that fighting reality is like swimming against a current. The more we resist, today, we will address an essential concept of Stoicism, emotional detachment. This practice teaches us to transform our perspective on relationships and situations, promoting a more balanced life free from unnecessary suffering. Emotional detachment does not mean becoming indifferent or insensitive, but rather learning to observe our feelings and reactions clearly. We often allow ourselves to be carried away by intense emotions, which can trap us in cycles of anxiety, sadness, or anger. Stoicism invites us to recognize that while we cannot control everything that happens around us, we can control how we react to it. By practicing detachment, we begin to see relationships and situations through a new lens. Instead of clinging to expectations and results, we start to value what each interaction teaches us. This shift in perspective helps us better deal with the pain of loss and uncertainty, allowing us to accept what we cannot change. Remember that emotional detachment is not a way to avoid deep connections, but rather a way to cultivate healthier, more authentic relationships. By releasing the weight of expectations, we can open up to the true. I invite you to reflect on how attachment affects your life and consider how Stoic principles can help you cultivate a more balanced approach. True happiness can be found within ourselves, rather than depending on what is outside of our control. Attachment can trigger intense anxiety, especially when we feel like we're about to lose something significant, whether it's a job, a relationship, or an opportunity. This constant worry about loss can consume our minds and affect our well-being. When we attach ourselves to something, like a person or a situation, our happiness is linked to the permanence of that attachment. This makes us susceptible to suffering, because, when we depend on external factors for our satisfaction, we are always at the mercy of uncertainty. Stoicism teaches us that by placing our hopes on things we cannot control, we set ourselves up for disappointment. When our expectations are not met, pain and frustration become inevitable. The expectation that things will stay the way we want is an emotional trap. When these expectations are disappointed, the emotional fallout can be difficult to bear. Stoic philosophy encourages us to accept impermanence and uncertainty as parts of life. This does not mean that we should become indifferent, but rather learn to value each experience while it lasts, without becoming attached to it. By practicing detachment and recognizing the transience of life, we can ease our anxiety. The Stoics remind us that when we seek happiness in material things, we are always at the mercy of factors we do not control. Money, possessions, status, all of these things can be taken from us at any time. If our peace depends on them, it too will go away with it. Now, imagine what it would be like if your peace of mind came from something that no one can take away, something that is inside you. When we cultivate our mind and heart, we discover that true peace does not depend on perfect situations or having everything we want, but rather on how we choose to react to what happens to us. Accepting what we can't control, like what other people think of us or the challenges that arise in our lives, is the first step to finding that inner peace. Seneca said that when we focus on what is truly within our control, our attitudes, our thoughts and reactions, we gain immense freedom. We are no longer prisoners of external circumstances. We are in charge of how we feel, even in the face of difficulties. This is the strength of those who find peace within themselves. No matter what happens outside, you remain firm and calm. And how does it alleviate stress and anxiety? Think about all the times you worried about something you couldn't change. The wasted time, the wasted energy, the agitated mind. All of this disappears when we accept that we cannot control everything, but we can control how we choose to